Hello fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Big Carson Wentz trade news in today's video. I'll ask the question first and then get into the news and rumors. Will Carson Wentz be traded by this time next week? What do you think? I think the coming days we could be seeing a Carson Wentz trade based on some new stuff we're hearing as of really this morning. We're going to jump into a second, but first, again, questions down below, pin comment. Will Carson Wentz be traded next week? Why for yes and for no? All right, so welcome in, of course, to Philadelphia Eagles Now here on a Friday, which means we need to get into the news and rumors of the day. And let me tell you, there is a lot of stuff going on in Philadelphia. It's been a crazy offseason. It's only getting crazier as we talk a lot about Carson Wentz here on the channel. There seems to be new reports every single day, whether he's going to stay, whether he's going to go, and we've covered it all here wire to wire. Although the news today, I think, is the biggest indication yet that Carson Wentz could be heading somewhere else in the coming days, maybe even the coming weeks. So the Eagles reportedly have been getting aggressive trade calls regarding Carson Wentz. Now, we'll give you the full details on this, but the first thought is, I've kept saying, don't trade him. The Eagles have kept saying, they don't want to trade him, but the report is that they're getting aggressive trade calls and teams are picking up the phone, and the Eagles aren't not answering, is everything that I've heard in terms of they are listening to trade discussions, and it sounds like if they get the right price, whatever that is, they will go ahead and move on from Carson Wentz. So, as I've said in the past, I thought Carson Wentz would stay in Philadelphia. I thought the Nick Sirianni hiring would make a difference because they're reportedly saying he was, at odds with Doug Peterson. However, it's starting to feel more like Wentz will be traded than he won't be traded. I was more 60-40 he would stay. It might have shifted to 40-60. He's probably going to go ahead and be traded. Here's the ESPN write-up on the Carson Wentz news. Quote, "The wheels are in motion. One league source said their understanding is Philadelphia has already received aggressive offers. The Eagles are looking for significant compensation in return for the 2016 number 2 overall pick. It's a safe bet that the Eagles will work to make a deal happen and have incentive to do so sooner rather than later because more seats get filled in the game of quarterback musical chairs." End quote. That, of course, coming from ESPN. And again, a lot of reports. Ian Rappaport broke the story that they're getting phone calls. It feels like a Wentz trade is inevitable. And I'll be honest, I have been under the impression that he would stay. I've been a guy saying and clamoring for him to stay. I think Philadelphia needs to work out a way to go ahead and keep Carson Wentz. But if we keep hearing stuff like this, it feels like a trade is going to go ahead and be inevitable. And they mentioned it. The quarterback wheels, the quarterback musical chair game continues to get filled. The Stafford trade was the first domino of many to fall, and many think that Carson Wentz is the next domino to go ahead and be moved on. I think Philadelphia is simply waiting for the right offer. They're going to let teams compete for him. We'll talk about more teams here in just a second, but teams are apparently making phone calls, and so you kind of bid the offer up there, and if you get a good enough offer, then you just roll with Jalen Hurts and you move on from Carson Wentz and hopefully spend the draft picks wisely that you would go ahead and use from Carson Wentz. As we said before, can't cut him, $60 million dead cap hit, that's impossible, but you can trade him. You'd still eat about $30 million, but it frees up a lot of cap space next offseason and gets you out of the expensive contract you went ahead and paid Carson Wentz just a couple of seasons ago. So, we know that there are at least 5 teams that did, in fact, try to trade for Matthew Stafford. There are reportedly 8 teams, although 5 have been named. We know the 49ers at least made a phone call. The Colts were very aggressive about this. The Panthers were offering number 8 overall for Matthew Stafford, according to multiple reports. Washington also heavily involved in trade discussions, and Denver, who's not sold on Drew Luck, apparently. Those are the 5 teams, I think, that could very well be in the running for a Carson Wentz trade. I think more specifically, you look at the Colts in there, look at the Panthers in there, and the Broncos. I think they would try to trade him to the AFC. I don't see Washington being a factor here at all. Of course, the Donovan McNabb going to Washington, that was at the end of his career. You don't want to give a team in your division Carson Wentz, and then, he goes back to being 2017 Carson Wentz, and he plays you twice a year and beats you twice a year, and you look like an idiot for doing that trade. I think the Colts make the most sense here, and again, that's the news we keep hearing out of Philadelphia. I think a mock trade would look something like this in terms of with the Colts and Carson Wentz. I think Philadelphia wants a first-round draft pick. Now, 21 overall is where the Colts currently sit. That, to me, would be plenty. But I don't think the Colts do a straight-up first for Carson Wentz. I think that they can say, hey, Wentz has regressed over the past couple of years. The contract is a little bit tough. He wants out of Philadelphia. And so then it would take, I would argue, a little bit of maneuvering to go ahead and get that first-round draft pick. So, again, the mock trade, you see it on your screen, first overall, and they would get a 5th, 149 overall. They would give them Carson Wentz and give up a third-round draft pick. So you lose the third, you gain a 5th, but you get the coveted first-round draft pick as well, meaning Philadelphia would have number 6 and number 21 overall in the first round. That, to me, is a very logical mock trade. I don't see any scenario where they get 2 first-round draft picks, and I really don't see a scenario where they get just a first for Carson Wentz. I would do that. I think a first for Carson Wentz is fair compensation, but I don't think that that's a logical or likely scenario. We need to be realistic about Carson Wentz's trade, profitability here, because again, great quarterback, at least has been in the past, but the recent, team drama and obviously the play in the football field has definitely brought that price down. I think if he is traded, and again, that's what we're kind of leaning towards and hearing here at Philadelphia Eagles now, you can get a first back, but you have to give up at least a mid-round draft pick in terms of compensation back and forth. So, that's the Carson Wentz update. You never know. I mean, literally, by the time you're watching this video, maybe he is traded. It could happen any minute now, any hour, any day, any week. We'll keep you guys covered here on this channel. But go back to that pinned comment down below. Will Carson Wentz be traded by this time next week? Type Y down below for yes, type N down below for no. All right, let's move on to some non-Carson Wentz conversation here because there is other things going on in Philadelphia, starting with Jalen Mills, the free agent, former cornerback, now safety, who says he wants to come back and play in Philadelphia in 2021. Now, I've said before, I thought Jalen Mills was okay last season. He wasn't, of course, Malcolm Jenkins, and he filled in admirably at times. I would rather him have stayed at cornerback, but apparently he wants to go ahead and continue playing safety, and he was on CBS Sports HQ just the other day, was asked about returning to Philadelphia, and says he wants to return. It feels like he wants to go ahead and re-sign with the Eagles and spend the rest of his career in Philadelphia. Now, no, of course, Eagles did draft Kayvon Wallace last year. Ronnie McLeod went down with the ACL injury, so who knows what they do with Kayvon. They're very happy. They like Kayvon Wallace out of Clemson. But maybe Jalen Mills comes back and gets another run at being the starting safety in Philadelphia. Here's his quote to CBS Sports HQ. Quote, when you got fans that passionate, why not play here? I'm the Green Goblin. I love it in Philadelphia. I won a Super Bowl with them. And of course, yesterday, February 4th, was the 3-year anniversary of the Super Bowl victory in Super Bowl 52. Of course, Jalen Mills played a pivotal role. However, it was at cornerback. I'm going to say this. If you get him at the right price, re-sign him, no problems there, put him at safety, whatever. I wish they would re-sign him as a cornerback. I'd rather have him at corner than Avonte Maddox. Like he said, I mean, he won a Super Bowl as the starting cornerback the entire season in 2017. He was pretty darn good. I thought he was pretty good as a cornerback until he switched over to safety. The defensive backfield is interesting overall. Again, McLeod, he's the veteran back there, essentially, besides Darius Slay. You hope that he comes back healthy. If not, then maybe, Kayvon Wallace replaces him, but is it more of a McLeod and Wallace backside? Is it a Mills and McLeod, Mills and Wallace? Who knows? But the DB safety side of the football field would be, I think, pretty shored up if Mills were to come back. You wouldn't need to draft anybody because, of course, you have Marcus Epps and Kayvon Wallace, who you drafted there in the middle of the 2020 NFL draft. So, will we see Jalen Mills back in an Eagles uniform? That is the question, but at least he has publicly said he wants to return, and that bodes well for Philadelphia's chances at giving him a team-friendly but fair deal for the Green Goblin to come back in midnight green. Like the video if you guys want him to go ahead and come back to Philadelphia. I mean, I don't know if we're in love with Jalen Mills, if we're not tired of Jalen Mills. Again, he wasn't great last year. I don't think he was as good as I was hoping him to be at safety, but give this video a thumbs up if you like the idea of bringing Jalen Mills back to Philadelphia. Also, still time to go ahead and get your bets in for Super Bowl 55. Of course, kicks off 6 p.m. Eastern Time or whenever it is on Sunday, but there are plenty of good opportunities to make some money with our friends at BetUS. Go to chatsports.com/EaglesBet. Use that promo code EAGLES125. When you put that $100 deposit down and use the promo code, you get $225. So you get a 125% deposit bonus, turning your $100 into $225 for your betting pleasure. I've locked in a lot of my bets here for the Super Bowl, but you can also sign up and then not just bet on the Super Bowl, but NBA games, the MLB whenever it starts, NASCAR. I mean, you can bet on anything at BetUS. Your one-stop shop for all your betting needs. Chatsports.com/EaglesBet. Use that promo code EAGLES125 to jump in on the deposit bonus. Okay. Final bit of news here. This was interesting. Over the past couple of days, we have learned that the Eagles never interviewed Eric Bieniemy, which is weird because it was reported everywhere that the Eagles had interviewed Eric Bieniemy. We talked about the whole Eric Bieniemy drama in the National Football League and how Philadelphia had a discussion with him, but that's as far as it went. However, according to Andy Reid, who was asked a whole bunch of questions, not Super Bowl related, during his Super Bowl Media Day press conference, he was asked about Bieniemy and said both sides essentially discussed, but there were no official interview requests submitted to the league, as that's part of the protocol in interviewing somebody for an NFL head coach. So honestly, it feels like the Eagles were interested, but not really that interested. Like they weren't interested enough to bring him back for a second interview. I got some interesting thoughts on this. First, though, let's throw up the Andy Reid quote here on how we got to this whole discussion. Quote, they, the Eagles, and Eric Bieniemy had talked earlier about it, but there was nothing formally sent in. Now, here's the deal. We can sit here and discuss about whether Eric Bieniemy is going to be a great head coach in the National Football League, whether he deserves a job or not, and blah, blah, blah until the cows come home. That's not the discussion here. I think the Eagles have their guy, Nick Sirianni. I think, honestly, if you're being 100% genuine, they really wanted Nick Sirianni from the start. It wasn't like, well, we want, Arthur Smith, or we want Brian Dable, or we want Eric Bieniemy. Couldn't get them and settled for Nick Sirianni. I don't think that it was their number one choice, but I think Sirianni was up there as probably they're close to their number one choice. In terms of whether they interviewed Eric Bieniemy or not, or whether they, didn't bring him in for a second interview or an official one, I think it's very simple. Philadelphia had a plan in place when they were looking for a head coach. They wanted an offensive-minded guy, and they wanted somebody who would fit the system and who would do what, of course, GM Howie Roseman and President and CEO Jeffrey Lurie wanted them to do, and that was hopefully keep Carson Wentz or at least build from the quarterback spot around Carson Wentz, and that's what they went into each interview with, whether it was Todd Bowles, whether it was Arthur Smith, whether it was Brian Dave, all of them. It was, hey, we want Carson Wentz. How are you going to make him great again? And I think that there are a lot of people who said, maybe even Eric Bieniemy, who were like, I'd rather have Jalen Hurts. And maybe they're right on that. Maybe Jalen Hurts is the better quarterback of the future. I compared him to Russell Wilson his rookie year, and you saw that here on the channel. But maybe they went to Eric Bieniemy and they had kind of these minor discussions, and they asked him, would you rather do Jalen Hurts or Carson Wentz? And he said, much rather do Jalen Hurts. And they went, well, we're trying to keep Carson Wentz here. Thanks, but no thanks. Have fun. Also, the one problem with Eric Bieniemy, the entire coaching search, is that you really couldn't interview him in person. You could do Zoom interviews and virtual stuff, but because he was preparing for the AFC title game and now the Super Bowl, it was a lot harder to get some free time for him. And honestly, there's a lot going on, trying to just go and win another Super Bowl back-to-back there with the Kansas City Chiefs. So maybe Philadelphia liked the idea of getting to interview some head coaches in person. Who really knows? Again, the whole thought here is they have their guy. They're very happy with Nick Sirianni. I have said I'm very happy with Nick Sirianni. I think the coaching staff Nick Sirianni put together is grossly underrated, and a lot of people in the national media aren't giving him the credit that he deserves in terms of quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, special teams coordinator, defensive coordinator. I mean, we talked about it. It's pretty darn good. I think overall they have their guy, and so we can finally, hopefully, put the Eric Bieniemy discussions to bed. Good luck to him in the Super Bowl. I think he's going to be a top head coaching candidate next year, as he was the past couple of years, and he's waiting for the right opportunity, as we discussed here on this channel many, many times. Okay. Ultimately out for today here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. Make sure you guys are subbed. I'm serious about this Carson Wentz stuff. I know we kind of flip-flop on will he stay, will he not stay. We keep hearing fresh news. It feels like he's going to be traded. I'll put right now, my full expectation is Carson Wentz is traded. And if he is and when he is, we will discuss it here right on this channel. We'll get into deep discussions in terms of the trade compensation and what went down and everything going on in the Eagles world. But make sure you guys, again, are subscribed because this is the best one-stop shop for that. Again, ultimately out for today here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. I'm your host, Thomas Mott, signing off. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.